Is this Blackbeard figure actually worth the price? No, I regret buying it. Because just one day before mine arrived, I got a notification from Nin Game. They were doing a sale. And guess what? Blackbeard was up there with 31% off. That stings, especially for a figure this pricey, with barely any accessories to begin with. I should have waited. But hey, now that prices are going down, for this size and detail, it's starting to make more sense. Just don't expect perfection. Speaking of size, let's take a look at the box this beast comes in. And yeah, it's just as oversized and dramatic as Teach himself. The front shows a standard One Piece SH Figuarts box design, but scaled up to match the Emperor's status. Too big for my desk, and honestly, kinda a struggle to fit on screen. Front window gives you a clear view of Teach and his very modest set of accessories. Back of the box shows off what you can expect. Big presents, some classic Blackbeard expressions, and a reminder of what he could have come with, like effects or a better stand. Top of the box has this cool pirate hat silhouette cutout, a nice thematic touch. They've got the Tamashi tech tag and the classic map background. Bottom's minimal, just the name and a promo shot, nothing exciting. One side's got a nice character shot, full of attitude. The other side goes wild with this diagonal design and expression collage. Overall, big box for a big character, but it definitely takes up shelf space. Not the most creative packaging, but it does the job. All right, enough about the box. Let's bring the man out. Now, I'm not throwing on any accessories just yet. I want you to see Blackbeard as is. Straight out of the box, no extras, just raw presents. Because trust me, the sculpt and paint alone, already putting in work. Let's break it down. I gotta say, I'm honestly amazed at how this turned out. Holding this figure in hand, it feels premium, like way above the usual SH Figuarts standards. The sculpt, the paint, even the plastic quality, everything feels top tier. No paint bleeds, everything is sharp. This might be the best SH Figuarts figure I've ever handled. Let's start with the hat. The yellow fluff around the brim is sculpted with chunky, dramatic texture. It really sells that over-the-top pirate energy. And that orange fluff in the back, holding the feather bouquet, it's actually made of hard plastic. And yes, it even articulates. But more on that when we hit articulation. Now this right here is what surprised me. The feather bouquet. The stripes, the bow, even that tiny purple flower. Everything is painted insanely well. No bleeding, even in the smallest spots. They really took their time here. Even under the hat, like the bandana wrapping around his head, is so neatly painted. No mess, no shortcut. Everything about this head screams quality. The pirate logo, super crisp. No smudges, no weird printing errors. Just clean, bold detail. Now let's talk about the face. Man, this sculpt nails Blackbeard. That crazed grin, the uneven teeth, the wild expression, it's ripped straight from the anime. His beard and hair have this really nice flow. It doesn't feel stiff. The textures are clean. And those gold earrings and beard rings, they pop without looking cheap. Moving down to the coat, it's got this smooth matte black finish with nicely sculpted folds that give it some real weight and presence. And at the upper back, you'll find a Velcro strip, which is where the soft goods cape attaches later. But we'll get into that once we hit the accessories. Underneath, there's this textured purple wool-like sculpt lining the inside. It adds contrast and makes the whole piece pop even more. At the lower back and sides, there's actually a ball hinge system that lets you move the bottom of the coat. It's a cool idea in theory, and the visible joints don't really bother me too much. But what does bug me is that when you move those parts, the gaps start looking awkward, and it breaks the flow of the sculpt. It just doesn't move very clean. I kinda wish they went with a different material or a more seamless method here. Now the shoulders are made from a soft, rubbery plastic, which helps with articulation. It's not the cleanest system, but it does preserve the sculpt up top. But when you move it around, especially with arms raised, you'll see it's hollow underneath, and that joint becomes super visible. It looks a bit rough depending on the angle. Going down to the biceps, they do have a rotation cut, but it's not sculpted smoothly. When you twist it, the edges look pretty sharp and disconnected. Would have been nice if that seam blended in better. Thankfully, the sleeves themselves look great. Clean paint, solid red and gold details, and that classic pirate cuff design really pops. Now, on the front, you've got these white loops on one side and gold toggles on the other, which are part of a frog-style closure system. It's a cool detail you don't always notice right away, but it fits the pirate aesthetic perfectly. And tying it all together is that bright red lining that runs right up to the collar. Simple but effective. It gives the whole coat some energy without stealing focus from the figure itself. Now moving to the body. And yeah, I gotta say it, I'm seriously impressed with the paint here. The matte skin tone looks super clean, and while I'm not 100% sure if there's any heavy shading, the way it plays with the light, it just works. Especially in areas where the folds and shadows hit, it gives it depth without overdoing it. The hair detail on the chest and belly is also really well done. The lines are sharp, evenly painted, and the sculpt flows naturally from the chest down. It doesn't feel lazy or rushed. Now, one thing to mention, when you crunch that big old belly forward, you'll see some noticeable gaps at the waist, mostly from the sides. It's not a huge deal, but yeah, it does break the sculpt a bit. I get why they did it this way, probably to make room for the guns on his waist, so they wouldn't block the movement. But still, I wish they could have found a smoother solution that didn't look so awkward from the side. But here's something that throws me off. The areas where his pistols would normally hang. You can clearly see the holes in the sculpt where they'd peg in. Now, I get it. Maybe in this outfit or era, he's not using his guns yet. But if they're going to leave those holes exposed, it would have been nice to include optional filler pieces, like a plug-in sculpt that looks like part of his body or belt, something to cover it up for people who want to pose him without weapons. Now, for the hand, he comes with a pair of fisted hands. And they're not just plain fists. You've got painted body hair on the knuckles and these nicely sculpted rings that really bring the character to life. Each one pops with vibrant color, and the paintwork is super clean. No bleeding, no slop, just crisp detail that makes those fists look rich and full of personality. Now the pants, man, these are loud. You've got this all-over light blue clover pattern against that dark base color. It's bold, cartoony, and just fits Teach's over-the-top look perfectly. The belt sculpt is solid, painted in a matte brown with a bright gold buckle. Paint's clean, no mess-ups, and the sculpted belt loops give it some real depth. Down at the feet, we've got those chunky brown shoes with gold-painted buckles, and again, the paint is tight. The striped socks and those frilly ruffles right above the ankles are hilarious in the best way. So yeah, visually, he's crushing it. Sculpt's on point, paint's clean, but now let's see if he actually comes with anything worth displaying him with. Let's see what Blackbeard brings to the battlefield. Alright, let's talk accessories. And while it's not a treasure chest full, what we do get definitely adds to the Blackbeard flair. Starting with the faces, by default, he comes rocking this big old grin, like he just stole someone's devil fruit, again. Then we've got this evil laughing expression. You can practically hear the just looking at it. And for when things get serious, there's the angry yelling face, perfect for when Teach is throwing punches or throwing a tantrum. For hands, you get just enough variety to bring out his chaotic energy. A pair of fisted hands, wide open palms for dramatic yelling, grasping hands for that mid-battle madness, and relaxed open hands when he's just casually scheming your downfall. He's also packaged, literally. You get 3 guns that plug into his waist. The sculpt is pretty solid too. They've got a nice wooden texture, painted in a rich blue with clean gold accents for the metal parts. The paint job is crisp and really gives them that polished, premium feel. Sadly, no gun-holding hands. But hey, maybe he's just flexing that yummy power instead. And then there's this soft goods cape, bright yellow, fluffy, with wired edges and Velcro at the back to strap it on. It's made from a faux shearling-like material that feels soft and cozy to the touch, almost like a mini plush. I'm honestly really glad they went for soft goods here instead of plastic. Like, come on, just look at the image of him from the anime and compare it to the figure. This cape doesn't just match the look, it brings it to life. I'm genuinely impressed by how creative they were in choosing this material. It captures the source design perfectly while giving the whole figure a real sense of presence and personality. Oh, and you're gonna love this. He even comes with a bonus DLC-style faceplate that channels the raw power and madness of Joy Boy. A true callback to that legendary awakening moment. Last but not least, a figure stand, in case you want to float him mid-power up or keep him from tipping over from all that pirate swagger. So yeah, not the most packed release, but what's here definitely brings out the Blackbeard energy. And honestly, that laughing face alone is doing half the work. The accessories may be few, but they've got great sculpt, clean paint, and some surprising creativity, especially with the soft goods cape and the vibrant color choices. It all really helps bring the figure to life. Still, for the price, I feel like we deserve just a little more. Maybe an extra hand with some yummy yummy effect, or something to show off his devil fruit powers. Just that one extra touch could have pushed this from great to legendary. Alright, we've seen the faces, the hands, and the flashy little extras. Now let's see how well this emperor actually moves. Time to break down the articulation. Because as big and bulky as he looks, you might be surprised at what he can and can't do. Alright, let's start from the top. The orange plume on the hat is on a double ball peg, so it can swivel around, which is a fun little detail. Now for the head. He's got decent range looking up, but the long hair does limit it a bit. Looking down is almost non-existent, but you can shift the neck joint forward to fake a downward glance, which works just fine. Side-to-side movement is there, but the beard gets in the way a little, so don't expect a full swivel. Still, it's decent. He's got a little tilt to each side, and the neck articulation rotates well, which really helps give the head some life. Also, shout out to the hinged beard. It moves up and down, which adds a surprising amount of expression. The arms, solid range. He can go forward, up, and back with no problem. Now I will say, depending on the pose, the shoulder area can look a little weird because the sculpt is hollow inside. I usually angle the arms to hide that gap, and honestly, if it's at the back, no big deal, the cape will cover it anyway. There's a bicep swivel, but yeah, the cut is kinda harsh. Doesn't look supernatural when rotated. The double-jointed elbows give a decent bend, considering how thick his arms are, and the ball hinge wrists work well for most hand poses. Though on mine, some hands like to fall off a little too easily. In the upper body, he's got a nice chest twist. The belly crunch though, actually decent. You will see some gaps from the side, but just imagine it's his flabs, folding in on themselves. No backward bend though. Waist rotation is smooth and solid. Legs can kick forward pretty well. Not so much backward, but the splits, surprisingly great. He's got a thigh swivel, double jointed knees with okay range, and the ankles are solid, full rocker motion, and even a toe hinge for extra posing. So overall, for a big, bulky figure with a layered coat and a lot of sculpted parts, the articulation is honestly better than I expected. Not perfect, but definitely posable enough to pull off his iconic energy. But how does Blackbeard stack up next to the rest of the SH Figuarts crew? Let's line up the heavy hitters and see who's really commanding the seas. And here he is, standing tall and wide next to the rest of the SH Figuarts One Piece lineup. And yeah, Blackbeard is an absolute unit. You can really see how Kaido still edges him out in height, but Blackbeard's bulk and aura bring just as much shelf power. Whether he's towering beside Ace and Gear 5 Luffy, or flanked by the entire Straw Hat crew, this figure demands attention. The sheer volume of his sculpt, the presence of that coat, and those oversized arms put him in a league of his own. So if you're building out your One Piece display and want a figure that screams final boss energy, this guy's a must. Just make sure you've got enough room. He's not sharing space without making it his. Final verdict? Blackbeard's SH Figuarts release is one of the boldest and most display-worthy pieces in the entire line. And seeing him alongside the crew just drives it home. The Yonko scale is real, and it's glorious.